jungle.
Okay, rolling.
Hello, welcome to the jungle. I'm your host, Amberly Lobo. Today's guest has created a multi-million-dollar pretzel empire called Pretzel.
Life is a jungle.
In this conversation, we find out how exactly she created this delicious pink pretzel empire. Plus, we talk about burnout, hard work, the do's and don'ts of business, design, and so much more. It is the pretzel queen, Brittany Garbutt.
Welcome to the jungle with Amberly Lobo. Welcome to the jungle.
Brittany Garbutt, welcome to the jungle.
Hi.
I am so excited for this. So in 2017, at age 23, you opened your first pretzel store in a little container in Northbridge. And if we fast forward to right now, it has grown into this delicious pink multi-million-dollar pretzel empire. And today we're going to talk about how you did it, the good, the bad, the ugly, things that went right and things that went wrong, and COVID and success. So I am very excited. Thank you so much for taking
Excited
the
to
time.
be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start at the beginning. Your parents are South African. You were born in South Africa and you moved to Perth at a young age. What were you like as a kid?
Oh, I've never been asked that question before. Wild. I was a lot to handle. But really, I was like a little teacher's petty because I like to learn things. So I'm always like, hello, help me. I want to learn things. But it was just like a lot of energy, a lot. Pretty much this, but younger. We have not really changed too much. And very open-minded, free. Those people you're like, oh, she's a bit with the fairies.
Oh, yeah. I think I was like that. I
one of
believed
those.
in fairies as a kid.
Me too.
Did you believe in
100%. I got my name in one of those, they illustrate the fairy. You get your name in it. Ooh. Yeah, no, I'm very, strange, little weird child. But, cute enough.
Were you always, super creative as a kid? Is that making things?
Yeah, always. In every facet of everything. Played with my food. If I had to do a chore, we were, playing with it. I used to, carve soap figurines and, shower time, whatever it is, bubbles. I'm cleaning out in the garden. We're making something, constantly, 24/7, never stopped.
Well, you had your first taste of pretzels pretty early on. In year 9, you got a job working for Wetzel's Pretzels at Whitford City.
Shout out to Pretzels.
How was that experience?
It was the best. I worked for the most lovely, crazy family in the whole entire world. And they were Croatian, so family run. The son was there, daughter was there, mom, dad did all the bookkeeping and all the rest of it, and they were just a crazy, loving, funny little unit. And Yadi, the lady who ran it, she taught me so much. But aside from them, the girls that I got to work with, were so sweet and a little bit crazy and wild, and we all kind of got along, and it was I don't know how to describe, very a big marshmallow, and it was fun. It was so much fun, and it wasn't really about the pretzels as much as it was these people that I got to spend time with. So, especially as someone, I was 14 or something. So it was fun. I got to grow up with them, and I was there till I was 18 or something.
I was going to say, you did it for a long time. In that time that you were there, were you having light bulb moments back then where you're like, I'm going to do this. This is going to be my job. Did it?
Absolutely not.
Okay, cool.
Under no circumstances. Completely the opposite.
Yeah.
And most of my life actually is I'm really careful about what I say I will not do, because that tends to be now what
you end up doing.
Number one, I will not own a restaurant.
Yeah.
God forbid I'm I couldn't think of anything worse than, if I had to grow up and make pretzels for the rest of my life, how upsetting that would be, blah, blah, blah. But that's what I do now.
Oh, so that was what you kind of thought back then. You were
100%.
I would never do this.
And I was absolutely
now
not.
you've got an empire.
Literally, I was kill me. If I end up here, I'm going to be so upset.
I'm keen to unpack how you got there. So I know at school you went to Mater Day. My dad taught there, Mr. Lobo.
Yay.
Shout outs to my dad. He's probably listening.
Perth behaviour.
But you smashed it in design at school and you got the highest ATAR mark in design in Western Australia, which congratulations, that's amazing.
Thank you.
This got you a scholarship into Curtin University. So what did you study there?
So I studied creative advertising, graphic design, photography, and illustration. It's like a double degree.
Okay. And now I know most people struggle with just a degree. I took 13 years to do mine because I really struggled. But I've heard that you were actually just layering on all these hobby courses at the same time at TAFE. Is that right?
Yeah, it's called ADHD.
Okay.
You know?
I thought there must have been something going on. I'm like, she's such an overachiever because you were doing like cake decorating.
Yeah, I have like the most, and not to denigrate them, like they're brilliant little degrees, but well, they're not degrees, like certificates, but like I have the most ridiculous ones, like a Cert 3 in cake decorating, and like I did like lingerie boning on
I
the
read
side.
that one and I was like, what is that? Is that, do you know how to make bras?
Well, yeah, basically it's like the boning section, and you could do these like short course things at TAFE, and I'm like, sign me up.
And you were doing your degree at the same time.
Yeah, and it was like a coping mechanism for me because like I like to learn. It's like I so enjoy it. And in order to be able to like tolerate the pressure of like, because a design degree is intensely pressury, it was like, let's go do something like fun, and that's like my version of fun.
Okay, yeah, I'd
So-
probably play sport or do something else, but yours was like,
I was like,
learn
let's go
something.
do screen printing.
Yeah, okay. So you got what were some of the ones you got? Like lingerie. I feel like I read somewhere you did.
A Cert 3 in event
Event
management.
plan- yeah,
I did my
okay.
Cert 5 in event management, or 4 or something, like the next one up.
Okay.
For a while was doing like an Excel thing, because like there's this thing called like the Excel Olympics.
Oh yeah,
like,
okay, no.
oh,
It's
you
not on
should-
my radar.
You should watch it. It's so good. It's like people are just like with extreme Excel talent.
Oh wow.
Like doing all these crazy Excel things. But that one was short lived. It was not as interesting as I wanted it to be, and definitely not like hands on enough. But yeah, I did cake decorating for the longest of time. I loved that. I was like, I'm a big cake decorator.
Yeah, I can see that for you.
But then I just could not finish them.
Yeah. Okay, so you started these and a lot of them you didn't finish.
Well, most of those I finished.
Yeah.
But like physically the cake, like when I'm like
Decorating it, you got bored.
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay, so you graduate uni now with this degree and a billion other little degrees on the side.
yeah.
What were you straight away like, I'm going to start my own thing, I'm going to work for someone else? Like, what was your mindset when you'd graduated?
When I graduated, it was like most of the kids like in my year group pursued like an agency job, because that's what you do, graphic designer branding. And I don't know, I like didn't want it as much as they did. So I was like, I don't know, let's just like pause on that thought for a minute, and like the idea of being like horrendously tortured from like 6 a.m. to like 12 p.m. every day, and it's like 12 p.m. that would be midday, like, you know, in the middle of the night. Like they were all having a tough time with like the way that industry works, and they're getting paid peanuts, to be honest. So I think as well, like I wasn't as like wanted, like just immediately. Like I kind of felt like most of my life it was like, and I am brilliant.
Yeah.
And like
Here's the scholarship.
yeah, and I think it kind of became, it was like, oh my God, these people are busting their asses to get those agency jobs. And I'm expecting someone to just hand it to me. And if you're going to ask me to bust my ass for it, I actually don't want to. And so I was like, nah, that's not going to be what I'm going to do. But I really fell in love with the photography side of things. I really fell in love with the cash from it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like quick. Like you can go to a nightclub, you get $200, you sometimes half hour.
Was this just another skill that you'd picked up for photography?
Well, yeah, I technically studied it. So,
oh, okay, this is a part of the course. Yeah, okay, cool.
So, like, in my last year at uni, I kind of, like, focused a bit more on that.
Yeah.
Because you kind of, like, tend to pick. So, you, like, graphic design and advertising and then photography and illustration. So, I kind of went advertising and photography. And then, yeah, I was like, this is money. So, I just kept doing that and, you know, kept bankrolling it and filling up my time and, like, doing more, like, creative fun shoots and stuff. And then I go do, like, the good money stuff, like 30ths, birthdays, events,
Weddings.
clubs, weddings. Weddings were great. But it's, like, not my sentiment in the end, which is, like, similar again to, like, the not being able to commit to the agency thing, which was, like, I'm pursuing a lot of this work and I love it for the money purely. And I'm, like, doing people's, like, most phenomenal moments. Like, I'm, like, at their wedding and I'm, like, can we hurry this
Gotta
up?
go, guys!
I'd like to cash my check and peace out if you don't mind. So I kind of, like, at that point was, like,
you need to do something else.
Like, what are we doing this for and why are we doing it?
Life is a jungle.
What was the epiphany moment where you were like, I'm going to start a pretzels store?
So, like, right after that, then I was like, okay, we're a full-time working gal. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go get, like, a job where, like, someone else is responsible for my paycheck. I'm going to rock up. I was in that phase. And I started working at David Jones.
DJs.
I was doing visual merchandising and, like, doing all the windows and stuff.
Oh, that would be fun.
So it was actually quite fun. But then it did enter this, like, weird phase where I was, like, ludicrously out of touch with, like, the world. Yeah. I, like, remember coming home and I'm like to my mum, I'm like, I bought this t-shirt for $200. It was on sale. And my mum almost was like, had a heart attack. She's like,
Yeah.
what? And I'm like, oh, Deborah, you're so correct. This is crazy. Like, like, by the time you've paid $90 for a candle, when you earn like $19 an hour.
Oh, you're not earning anything, yeah.
No. I'm like, this is crazy. And I don't vibe this whole situation anymore. And it's like, I don't know, it was very like routine and like, I don't know, that just is not how I like get amped, I suppose. And there wasn't enough like avenues for me to do something like a cake decorating course. Like I didn't have my like,
You can grow, yeah.
yeah, there was no like outlet there.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you have to quit, Brittany, which I've never done. I don't quit. But it's like, we need to in order to like figure this thing out.
I see, quit before you'd come up with the idea.
Yeah, because I was like, if you don't quit, you're going to stay here.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, don't let anyone down or like blah, blah, blah. So like, I pretty much that next day I was like, hi, I'm quitting.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it. And I didn't even know that you had to give like leave and stuff at this point. I'm like so not a working girl. I'm like, tomorrow I will not be here. I'm like, yes, you will be. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll see you for 2 more weeks. And then I'm out. But then after that, I went on holiday. And I was like, cool, I'm going to go to America. I'll go check it out, see, entertain myself, whatever. And then in that experience was when I was like, I'm going to do this pretzel thing. And it was just very random. And it was very like, I'm doing it. There was not a lot of consultation.
Yeah. And once you lock on an idea, you strike me as someone who's like
blinkers
on and you're going to go do it. Yeah. Okay. So you've locked onto the idea. You come back to Australia. Like, what were your first steps? Like, you had money, obviously. How much did you have in the bank?
So thanks to said photography and all the weddings, shout out to those ladies, I had $100,000.
Which is huge. That is a lot of savings.
Yeah. And like,
even now.
Also, like, I worked a bunch of hospitality jobs and, like, I don't know, I just filled my time, but it was, like, a good little saver. Yeah.
So that was, like, money you could save for a very long time.
Since I started at, like, Pretzels. But, like, even from my freaking paper round.
I was going to say, you had a paper round.
Yeah,
so
yeah. My mom used to subsidize it.
2.2 cents per paper round.
Yeah. It was, like, I didn't really understand, like, in the moment, but, like, when I got older, I was like, oh my God.
We were getting, like, nothing.
But then my mom was filling it. So because she felt so badly that we were, like, me and my brother would bust our asses.
Same. And we got a little bike. And
and it was kind of like my parents' job, too. Like, they did not get out of it. Like, we're, like, rolling papers together on a Thursday. Like, and we did 2 rounds. So we did the Monday to Wednesday. We had, like, Thursdays off.
We lived the same life. I did that.
It was actually horrendous. I get a lot of my work ethic from that, though. But, like, I was like, making, like, $15 a week.
Oh, that's what you'd make. It'd be like $15.5 or something so bad.
And since me and my brother were splitting it, my mum would just, like, double it.
So cute. So you have this $100,000. What were you thinking? Were you at any point like, I just go buy a Pretzels? Like, was it always I'm going to create my own thing?
Oh, it always has to be mine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's never even crossed my little mind. But like I have this friend called Mallory.
Yeah.
And she like loves pretzels. She's like obsessed with them. Always has been. And she always wanted to work at a pretzel. This was like her ultimate dream. But the one that we worked at closed down. And I don't know. I was like, what do you know how to do? I know I want a business. And at that point, it was like, oh my God, I will make this business. It'll be an overnight success. Everything will be completely perfect. It'll be so easy. I'll sit on my couch and I'll have this like passive income.
Oh, yeah.
Which was like not the case at all. But like that was the dream.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. You would have like been 22, 23 at this age. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was like, piece of fucking cake. Yeah. It's going to be so good. And obviously, like, because I'm a brander by trade, so I was like...
that part of it was covered.
Did
you create any other sort of business plan?
I had no business plan.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
there was no plan. The plan was just do it.
Just do it. Okay, so did you go, were you like, I'll go to a bank, get some money, and so I can buy somewhere bigger? Like, how did you, or were you always like, I'm going to only use what I've got?
It was only this, like, Northbridge one.
Yeah.
And it was like, probably I'll put this $100,000 in.
Yeah, wow.
And then if that's why the container.
It was the small container.
And I was like, well, if this thing goes freaking tits up,
Yeah.
I'm going to pick this container up, I'm going to move it,
Yeah.
or I can put it on Gumtree, which was like a big thing back then.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I'll get something back. And I used to have like this little mantra, and it was like you will just be as broke as everyone else you know. Like, I'm 23.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's fine.
I
Oh,
don't-
so that's how you got through when you started to stress? It would
Yeah.
be like, it's okay, I'm up here and I'll just fall back down here.
And it was like purely about the money. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to lose all of this
It's
money.
so
blah, blah,
stressful,
blah.
though, when you've worked so hard for
Yeah.
it.
But also it was nice because you're not really entitled to $100,000 at 23.
No, yeah, that's
Like-
a lot.
Like, weirdly, you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't sort of have that. I mean, great if you do. I mean, props
Yeah.
to me, whatever. But, like, realistically speaking, all that I lost was those small sacrifices
Yeah.
to save the money, which I didn't.
Yeah.
I never wanted for anything. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if we go to breakfast, my friends are having, like, pancakes and 17 coffees and a juice, and I'll have, like, toast.
Yeah,
But I was still there. Like,
yeah, I can imagine.
don't feel like I missed out on anything to save the money. It wasn't like a hardcore experience. And then I only had good experiences doing the work to get the money. So, like, once I could absolve that, then
you
it was
were
like,
all in.
yeah, it was like, okay, cool. What's the worst that could happen is you wake up tomorrow and you're broke. What of it?
I mean, it would still suck. But okay, so you're 17 years old. You've come up with this idea to do the pretzel place. You've brought a little sea container in the city. What were your steps in that? Did you have to fit this out on your own, or did you pull people in to help you? Like,
So I'm really lucky that my partner, he's a drafty.
Okay.
So I was like, I want a shipping container and I want stuff inside of it, blah, blah, blah. And then we ended up finding a company that makes shipping containers for like offices and things. So we got them to sort of alter it and add in all like the bits and bobs from like the sink and like the
were
electricity.
you designing it based on your memory of what you knew you needed from when you worked at like Wetzel's Pretzels?
Pretty much,
Okay,
yeah. And I was like, I'm going to need some space for that. But it was a square that we worked in
Yeah.
at like Wetzel's. So I was always like, oh, okay, just squish it.
Yeah.
Like, try, like rectangular. I made some errors, but I mean, you know, it is what it is. But I fitted out the majority of the inside, which is so funny. This is like one of, I think, the biggest takeaways. There's like this random statistic where it's like DIYs cost like a fortune more than just like getting the professional.
yeah.
Pretzel Northbridge. Me, I'm buying like all these individual like stainless steel tables, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, trying to piece everything together from like the cheapest price possible. I'm getting secondhand this and that, putting it all together. And then like when I did like my second one, I was like, this is like, I think cheaper than my first one.
Oh, really?
And my second one's like a full cabinetry done
Yeah.
properly. Like I didn't have anything to do with it, and I was like. It's definitely better just pay the man. Pay the man.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
So you fitted this store out, and your store, am I right in saying it opened around Fringe Festival?
Yes.
Now, as context for everyone, Fringe Festival is like this huge performing arts festival. It's like the third biggest in the world. It would have meant there was a lot of foot traffic near your little pink container. So how did the opening go?
So we lost electricity within like a half hour of being in there.
Oh, no.
One of my staff members gave out a cinnamon mayonnaise, not a cinnamon glaze, because the mayonnaise and the glaze looked very similar. However, the person who had it, we watched her. She ate the whole thing. She loved it. So that was bizarre, but we made so many mistakes. It was an absolute shit show. Like, it was insane. And then we were open for like 4 hours, and then, yeah, we lost electricity because we were overloading the circuit that had been put in for us, because, like, obviously the space that we occupied did not
So small.
exist.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just floor.
Yeah.
So we had to put everything in. And then, but I went home happy as Larry with like a big bag full of money. And I was like, I'm going to be a quillionaire. Like, this is the most amazing thing in the world. But it was Fringe.
Yeah, Fringe is busy. So did you manage to keep that foot traffic up when it...
No.
No.
So,
Okay.
so we
So
had
got a reality check.
It was awful. So we had it for like 3 weeks or something, and then it was like the first Monday, and I was like, okay, cool, like I'm going to work. And I think we made like $287. I'm like, I think, but we made exactly $280, and it haunts me to this day. And I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Like, I have fucked up royally. So I like go home. I have an actual nervous breakdown with like my mum. Like my mum's like, how's it going? I'm like, I'm not going to be able to afford my rent. I can't pay these people. I can't pay for my stuff. I'm like, I need to sell all of this and like, I can't. And like, I was just, it was horrible.
Yeah.
My poor sweet boyfriend as well. Like the next day he goes to Pretzel when I had left for like, he came after his work and I had just left for a bit and he bought like a crap ton of pretzels.
Oh, stop it, to make you feel better.
Yeah.
Oh, we love him. What's his name?
Jordan.
Oh, Jordan, we love you.
So he was like, oh, and like,
Quick, buy
buy
$281 worth of stuff.
yeah, so that I could have like a better day than like the Monday because he was
that
like,
is so nice.
and we're still together. Yeah, we've been together 14
He's
years.
a keeper.
Yeah, he's lovely.
Life is a jungle.
Stop the podcast. Sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to check in with you. How are you going, friend? And also, what are you wearing? That's right. I want to know. Is it comfortable? Is it sustainable? Is it ethically sourced? And most importantly, does it make you look pretty? If you answered no to any of the above, then I would like to introduce you to my friends and sponsor of the show, American Apparel. In a nutshell, they have super comfy, ethically sourced and sustainable clothing that will make you look so pretty. So what are you waiting for? Get your hands on some. Visit americanapparel.com.au today. Okay, thank you, bye. How did you pick yourself up from that moment and not just pack it all in? Because that's tough.
Oh, well, I mean, a lot of it was like my mom and like just people around me being like reasonable.
Yeah.
Because you're like, when you've invested so much like that, it's like, I can't be reasonable.
No, you
about
can't,
this.
especially when it's yours and you've got so much skin in the game. It's like those obstacles hurt.
Yeah, and you get very like I don't know. Also, I was like, oh my God, no one likes pretzels.
Yeah.
No one likes my shipping container.
Yeah.
People think it's awful. It's an eyesore. Like you start adding these weird
Stories.
like no one said that, and then you like almost pile in on yourself to sort of justify your kind of crazy behavior, but you're also exhausted because you know it's been 3 weeks, not to mention a couple months before it, barely slept, I'm working all the time, and I'm like, what have I done? Like, this is crazy. But then it was like, sit down, relax. Like, you have to relax. You don't actually have another option. And I think it was a bit bratty as well. I was like, this should have just done the thing I said it was going to do.
Yeah.
And when it didn't, I was more having a tantrum. So, like, after the nervous breakdown was just, like, plain old bratty, I just wanted this to work instantly.
Yeah.
And it's not. And then I kind of, like, sat myself down and I was like, that is not you. This isn't, you don't need to be like this. And you're a hardworking kid. And if you're as good as you say you are, then you will pull yourself up from whatever this little tantrum is and we'll just get to work. Like, and it's going to be awful. Just
And was it a lot of work then to get it?
horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, it was so tough. Did not have to be.
Yeah.
But it was just, I did not have the resources or the education or the understanding or the experience. And like, I sat myself down and was like, I will survive this.
But yeah, there's 6 month lease. By the time you got to the end of that, you went and expanded.
Yeah,
So it worked. But also, I love that you've gone from feeling extreme pain to like, oh yeah, I'll just open another one.
Yeah, which is like an interesting theory in itself. It's like, definitely was I like loving life and was like, it wasn't this like, oh, I've done it now.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I don't know, I'm in like the fucking thick of it. And like, I don't know, maybe I think this is why people might have like multiple children.
Yeah.
It's like close together. You're like, well, maybe the one will babysit the other, or you know what I mean? In like
I
5
love your
years.
business brain.
And I'm like, potentially, this might be easier if I have two.
Yeah.
And I'm here now, and like, you know, when it rains, she pours. Like, why not? And it was such a good opportunity, and I'm so grateful that I did
it was a huge opportunity because it was kind of full circle for you because you were opening your second one at Whitford's where you worked as a kid. Like, that was something that felt so special, even just for that.
Yeah, I mean, like, the whole getting it in there thing was crazy. It was like crane it up over the side of the building, and it was very stressful, blah, blah, blah. But it was about like 4 months after, and I was like, heck, that's pretty cool.
Oh, 4 months after that, the stress is
Yeah. It's about that long. And I was like, this is actually kind of nuts. Like, I suppose like that's a big thing in business is you rarely have this like, I think people are like, oh my God, that must be so amazing. You're like, I will get back to you on that thought when I'm at that thought, which could be sometime from now.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking years. We'll be in the same place.
Yeah.
It's very easy for people to like, it's not easy obviously, but I mean like it's really nice that people can compliment you and stuff and be like, recognize what you're doing, that you're in that.
It's so much work. Like,
Yeah.
did you find you could pull back a little bit on how much you were working between store 1 and opening store 2? Or were you still like boots to the ground doing the long hours?
Yeah, store 2 was still pretty much like, you know, in the thick of it. Plus you get this like little, it's not an ego, it's not as negative as an ego, but you start to believe you're the only person in the world who can do your job.
Oh, but I think so many people struggle with that, especially when it's their thing.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like, no, I'm the only one who do it at this level.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean to bring up the kids again, but it's like, you know when people like, they won't leave their own child with their mother?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you are alive and fine. Your mother mothered you. So chances are, babes, she's probably going to do just fine. Like, you were living
But
proof.
you never want to admit that.
No, and that's that feeling where it's like, I will not admit it.
Yeah.
Like, only I can do it. All I can see is that if I'm not here, this place will just go up in flames. Doesn't matter how much evidence there is to support that is a crazy notion. So many people get in that little, like... So I was, like, committed to it. I'm like, no, I'm going to be here all the time. And then eventually I just got so physically exhausted. I was like, we have to go on a break. And the only way I can really do that
It's by letting go.
and leave the country.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh,
can't
that's
be in
really
this
extreme. I was
country.
just going to say, like, letting go and delegating, but you're like, leave the entire country.
I need to actually be
Okay.
in a physically other place where people cannot contact me.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, if I'm here, I will drive from wherever I
Yeah.
am. I actually flew to Cairns. I tried to have a holiday.
Yeah, and you couldn't.
Flew home.
You were checking in on your security cameras. I see you.
Cannot fly home from Japan. You know what I mean? Different time zone. We're
Yeah.
all the way over there. Like, you sometimes have to do, like, physical
thing, especially if you're like, if it's hard for you to let go. Yeah, like a circuit breaker like that would have been good.
Yeah, and, like, at that point, it's like, yeah, you have to let it go. What are you going to do? Am I going to run down to Northbridge and go and solve their problems?
Yeah.
I'm a, 15-hour flight away.
That's
I
so
can't do
good.
that. And then when I came back from that, I
Has
was
this store blown up? Like,
Yeah.
was it all chaos?
in my brain. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be awful." And then they were all fine.
Oh.
Everyone was fine. It was that anticlimactic. I was like, "Oh,
Oh, okay, you didn't need me.
yeah."
Okay,
And then,
fine.
like from that point onwards, I was like, "Okay."
And then you just rapidly expanded. So you went from 2017, pretty much it looks like you had non-stop, no breaks, no life. I mean, I don't know, but
Precisely.
you've expanded. No, is it
Nail
just
on the
that?
head, yeah.
You've expanded to create this big pink pretzel empire. You've got 15 stores, 3 cafes. Like, firstly, congratulations. That is
Thanks.
so incredible starting from this little tiny box
Yeah.
in Northbridge. Did you ever think it would get that big?
No. Mm-mm. Mostly because of the terrible time I was having.
I know, but then I feel like you must just be like, oh yeah, the third one will look after the second one will look after the first one. I think that's your strategy.
I'm like, have as many children as you possibly can.
and they will all take care of each other.
Yeah, and then in retirement, me. You know, if I have 20 kids, I'm sure your retirement rocks. But yeah, no, I think at some point I started enjoying it,
Yeah.
and I was like, cool.
Was that when you started to like go a bit, or
Yeah, and I did like have another conversation with myself, and in this conversation with you, I'm learning that I talk to myself a whole lot in like a creepy way, probably, because I actually like sit and like at like a table, and I'm like, Brittany, we have
oh, you do
like I
Okay,
physically talk out loud to myself.
Yeah.
But I was like, look, we have to be able to accept 85% because this expectation that in my absence things are going to run 100% smoothly is bananas. And so it was like, are you cool with that? And I was like, yes, I can be cool with that.
Yeah.
So after having that discussion, it was like, all right, we can move on.
Yeah.
And I was a bit more capable of letting go of some of the smaller stuff and being like, remember what we discussed?
Yeah.
Brittany, this is not going to be possible. And it isn't. Like, unless I'm there every waking moment of the day, which is not reasonable, it's not a fair expectation of yourself, then cool. We go with 85% and try to reach for the stars as much as possible. Yeah.
Life is a jungle.
What has been like the biggest highlight for you so far?
That's super interesting. Highlight.
Or like wow moment. Or
I
like
feel
wow.
like there's one in here in my little brain where I've been like, that's cool. Like, that's real awesome what you did there. Oh, it was Curtin.
Oh, yeah, Kent University.
Yeah.
Wow, you keep on opening up where you've been. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I was like, because like all night I was like up the night before, and this was like in August or something. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope people come. Like, we were giving away free pretzels. Like 500 or something, or 100, I don't remember. But we hadn't really been able to do a big opening for the last like 2 years because irresponsible, COVID, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I was like, God, I hope someone comes. We had this little party thing with like Red Bull and had like DJs come, and it was really fun. And then there was like a line so long, it went all the way to the Med building,
Oh, wow.
which is
That's far.
for reference. And we gave out like thousands of free pretzels because I didn't want all these people who waited in the line. I couldn't be like, sorry, 501, get out. But it was cool. And like, I was so not that stressed. I was like enough stressed, like a stressed person should be stressed about. I had like the most amazing help. Like, I have a girl called Rowan. She does HR, but she's like in the store helping us. My staff know what they're doing. I have another amazing girl called Nicole, and she knows what she's doing, and she's rocking it. And my marketing guy, Lockie, he was on holiday at this point, but he had like solved everything, and like Harry's helping, and I'm like, this is it. We're doing it, guys. This is the thing that we were.
I've waited, mate.
Yeah.
The last few years of torture.
Yeah, and it was nice, like, to see like that so many people actually really loved and appreciated the brand, because I do put my like whole fucking life and soul into this thing, and like it was cool because I got to like go and talk to people in like in the line, and I was like, oh, it won't be too much longer. Like, they were like, nah, it's cool, we're like real happy to wait, we love Pretzel, we're so excited, and like they don't know I own it, so it was like nice to hear like genuinely cool comments. And that was a bit like, oh, you did a nice thing, kid, you're actually coming together.
Yeah, well, I want to go from that extreme high to perhaps, I don't know, it might not have been a low for you, but COVID, I feel like, was a low for a lot of people in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
Because am I right in saying at the start of 2020, this is when you decided to penetrate Melbourne? Like, your sharp business brain was like...
That's the timing. So we signed on to it like halfway through 2019.
Yeah.
And the strategy there was the kid thing again. I was like, we're going to have 5. Because realistically speaking, supply, staff, like all of that, it's a lot easier if you have multiple.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because the way that our brands turn over. So like we sell a very cheap product. It's $7.50. So there isn't this mass turnover in order to like compensate for $100,000 managers and things like that. But there is for 25 from each to contribute to one person, and those 5 stores would make up one
so
person's job.
Yeah.
So you need multiples. So we had basically signed on to them all in a row. I was like, this is what we're doing. And then COVID hit like a month later after we opened our first one.
Yeah, cool.
And I was like, nice, this is great.
Mum.
Yeah, literally. Deborah, I can't afford a therapist. But at that point, I don't know, it was like the cool thing about COVID, I think, was the confusion.
Yeah.
Like, had someone like been able to give me any information, I think I would have panicked. But it was like,
You could kind of be a bit hopeful that this wasn't going to last long. I was in Melbourne, so I was in the thick of it, and watching hospitality businesses have to pivot and offer picnic sets and set up tables on the grass. Like, how on earth did you do it if you were you based in Perth and trying to run it from
Yes,
Perth?
and it caused massive problems operationally. We did massive amounts of damage to our brand.
Yeah.
Like, the product wasn't able to be produced properly because our staff could not be trained properly. Like, there is no version of training for pretzel making that Zoom can offer. And even trying to send people over there, it was too difficult because you didn't know if they were going to get locked over there.
Because we had the snap lockdowns and you couldn't come back to Perth. Yeah,
and I saw how my staff were like mentally struggling over in Victoria, and it did not seem fair to send someone from WA, but that's where they're trained. So we have no one who knows really what they're doing in Victoria, and we're getting them there, but slowly, and they're making lots of mistakes, and we're turning over mass stuff because at this point it was cheaper, easier, and you made more money staying at home.
Oh, yeah, because you also have the JobKeeper, so you could pretty much either go work at the pretzel place or stay home and watch movies and also get the same amount of money.
Exactly. And like the guys in WA, like we had a much closer connection with them, just because obviously these were not
Time
brand
as well,
new. Yeah.
yeah.
And like when the JobKeeper thing came in, like I basically said to them all, like, you need to come to work.
Yeah.
Like, and just don't be a shit human.
Yeah.
Like, this money is not about getting the most from a government
Yeah.
and like staying at home and like rotting the system. Like, you have to participate in this in the right way.
Yeah.
And you need to take the money that you're being given, because it was astronomically larger than these kids were used to.
Yeah.
I had 18-year-olds making more money than they've seen in,
Yeah.
you know, most of their entire working lives.
Yeah.
And like, go spend it at local places. Go waste your money. Like, I want you to waste it. But
Yeah.
here, don't save it for a holiday in Europe. Like, that's not the point. So we had like a big team,
Yeah.
200 people discussion about how that was going to go. And about like making sure that they come to work for their own safety, their own mental health. They like need to
Oh,
leave.
it's so important just to have that like connection. Yeah.
And they were so good. Like, I was so proud of them. And they were like just on the ball with it. And we didn't have anyone who was like, I'm sick today. Like,
Yeah.
they really did the right thing, but it was like the polar opposite
in
experience in
Melbourne,
Melbourne. And that was when we were far away from. So we couldn't like connect to them like that. And we couldn't get them onto this, like, you know,
We're all in this together. Let's go. Yeah.
and they were suffering a different story to
Oh, it
us
was, yeah, really
completely.
tough, really.
Yeah. And so like we couldn't, even me, I tried to fly over and like sort of trick the dates.
Yeah.
So I would fly over 2 weeks before the borders opened, praying that they would open, and then flew
stay
back on
open.
that
yeah.
day.
Yeah, it was so scary.
Because they're only open for like,
If we got a case, then it was locking. Yeah.
yeah, so it was like, it was too risky to fly on the day and expect that if they said it was going to be open for 2 days, you know, 2
Yeah.
weeks or whatever, that would be what.
Yeah.
So, and one time I flew over and they did not open. So I was like, I'm stuck over here. But
Great time.
at the end, I made the decision to stay in WA because it could have stayed in Victoria.
Yeah.
But WA was making the money to pay for Victoria.
Oh, so it kept you guys afloat.
Yeah. So Victoria would not have survived if it had not been for the cash roll that was WA. So I was like, look, you just have to stay here. We have to try our best with that whole situation.
Yeah.
We got there in the end. It was just like really slow going.
Have you changed anything that you do, I guess, operationally because of that COVID experience?
Not that I do currently, but that I will be doing in the future.
Yeah.
So like franchising is completely a result of COVID.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was always like, oh, I don't want to be a franchise.
Yeah.
La, 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 la.
And
But
you always do what the opposite of what you
Exactly.
say. So now you're going to do it.
precisely. Whereas I was like, that's a dumb thought. And like those stores would have had, and those staff would have had that support.
100%. And someone would have known what they're doing. Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm over here like gatekeeping it because I'm worried someone's going to like not do exactly what I want them to.
Yeah.
Which is like back to that 85 conversation. Like, no, if you get a franchisee, maybe they're not going to greet everyone and say the same thing. And like, they're not robots, Brittany.
Yeah.
But 85% of it can be correct, and I can be happy with that. And someone can participate in my business and like make their own little story and family. Like, that's a cool thing. But it's really ridiculous to think just in here that you can be in two places at once physically like that. And it's wild to think you can run a hospo job only remotely.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I want to talk about your workload as an entrepreneur because I think it can often be glamorized, you know, like be your own boss, you get to set your own hours, you get to do your own thing. Like
Flexible schedule.
It's so flexible. No one's shouting down your neck. Like, is it that glamorous or is it like a lot of work?
No, it's like the most unglamorous thing I think you could potentially possibly do. Like, it's way more pressure in like the small ways than you could possibly imagine. And it's not flexible. You are so bound to laws, regulations, taxes, just like society's expectations, morals, ethics, kindness, not kindness. And then you also don't get the benefit of just being able to have a bad day and be like, chalk it up to a bad day. Like, they have consequences. If I, send an email in anger, so I'm like, consequences.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's a whole load of them. Whereas, I don't know, if I'm just at a regular job and I do a regular thing, you're like, Jordan, is that his job? He sends an angry email. Sorry, mate, had a bad day. Don't worry about it. No stress. It's not like this massive, like, line of your whole entire character being questioned and, like, the holes that CEOs have and, like, that we have are picked at because of the position. So you don't get this benefit of just making a mistake
I think
or
cruise controlling a lot.
yeah, and it's like my errors to everyone else look astronomical. When in actual fact, if they did it for
You
themselves,
see, yeah.
they'd be like, oh,
Yeah, she's just having a bad day.
just a little error. Yeah. Same with like anything we do. Like I make a small error. I'm like, oopsie daisy, didn't read something correctly or whatever. It's like, but you are the boss.
Yeah.
How did you not?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm also a human, still a human. But like, you don't always get that.
Kind of leeway, yeah.
No, yeah.
Life is a jungle.
I want to talk to you about burnout because I know you, as you said, this has been like your baby and you've expanded so fast into these like 15 stores and it all sort of came to a bit of a head. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So like maybe last year, like this time last year, I went into a facility for 4 weeks because I was so incredibly incapable of continuing. Like I could not. That was the unreasonable phase. I just could not figure out how to like manage. And it's a fat skill. Like it's something I should have gone to TAFE for probably.
I know, when you were lingerie
Exactly.
you fool.
Precisely. But it was like the forcedness of it as well. It was like, you don't really get an option here. Like I had a team of people around me who were like, you're losing it.
Stop.
Yeah, like you were losing the plot. And I was actually in a hotel in Melbourne, like losing it.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like in the hotel, I was working like 24/7. I only left the hotel like once a day to go and get a very specific bubble tea and buy one item of food from, like, it was becoming strange.
And as well, just to frame it, this is like only last year when it's not like in the build phase.
No.
You have at this stage expanded, you've got this multi-million-dollar empire, like, and you're still working your butt off doing these 24-hour days.
And it was like, you know what was so interesting too is like, I've gotten so much more work done since coming out of that. Because I'm actually working, like learning that like the longer my hours, the like depleted my capacity to actually make meaningful work is, it was life-changing. Like you can actually just work 9 to 5 and get like a stupid amount of things done. Like you can be so productive, but you can't really keep going like that if you're going to be doing that same behavior from like 6 a.m. to like 3 a.m., which is like what I was doing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like this anxiety in the back of your head. You're like, I must be productive. I must be doing something. If I'm not. And I had a lot of like guilt with my staff because I wasn't in the stores. And I was like, they need to see me working so hard. And like, you know that saying, like, which I live by, I do not ask anyone to do anything I have not done myself or am totally willing to do.
Yeah.
But I took that sentiment like a little too far. And I was like, you must be killing yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you're asking anyone else to even just step out of their slight comfort zone.
And you're not seen to do it.
And I'm not dying over here. Like, the visual of dying was so important to me. But it was like, you can't be a fraud also. So we are actually going to be dying.
Yeah, that's full on. So what did that look like for you? You just stopped being able to make decisions and you're just totally burnt out?
Yeah, well, I was just, again, like super unreasonable. Everything was becoming like just, my mum says this thing's like bigger than Ben-Hur. I don't know if anyone.
Oh, yeah, my dad says that.
Yeah,
actually.
maybe
And
they
maybe
hung out.
just got together. Must be a Mother Day
That
thing.
might be. But should be like, I was making everything bigger than Ben-Hur. Like, stuff did not have to be that difficult.
I think it's hard though when you're tired and you're stressed. We were just having this conversation off camera where even the smallest things, when you're stressed or sleep deprived, which you would have been majorly sleep deprived, like the tiniest email or something changing is like, what do you mean?
Yeah. I started taking it so much so personally. People were just like asking for regular things like, hey, Britt, can you be here? Everyone needs me for everything. And it was like, I was overtired.
Yeah.
Like the world's worst version of overtired. And people did say like, slow it down. But like, it has to come from like,
within.
Yeah.
I know so many people who work for themselves or have their own business or are maybe working and doing a passion project on the side and they do struggle to like, even I on some things struggle to like let things go or separate. Like do you have any takeaways from rehab or like have you actioned any things from there off the back? Yeah.
Like so much. Like number one, sleep.
Oh yeah.
She is the priority.
I've learnt that. I eat so much if I don't sleep.
Really? I just like, I see like, I like TikTok and things like that. Fuck, I love it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. And I don't have great self-discipline. I don't. It's just not something I was really like born with. But that's, I suppose, the biggest takeaway I took. Like, it's just not how I function.
I want to end on some practical tips. I thought it'd be cool to like split them a little bit with maybe some tips on starting a business, growing a business, and also because you are this design maestro, like designing a brand or branding. If you have any like really easy, actionable tips.
Okay, so what was the first one?
Starting a business. Don't do it.
No, I'm so like negative and mean about it. I'm like,
No, it's actually good, a reality check in.
I have like a check, and
Yeah.
it's like, so people always like, well, it's so sweet, and they're like, oh, I want to start a business, I want to be like you, and I'm like, if you knew the behind the scenes, babe, I'm doing you a favor here.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you could imagine your office, you know what I mean? And like you sit up at night and you're like, oh, I have this amazing desk, you know, I'm going to have this big sign, it's going to be so cute, and it's going to be here, and my glass windows and whatever. Like, stop your business. You don't want to own a business. You want to be in business. And they are sort of different. You do not need to own a company, physically be the owner, in order to participate in all the fun and glamour and excitement that is actually parts of business. There are people who work for me who have actually a very lovely, glamorous job. I don't. So I think sometimes like really worrying about your motive there. And if it is like the idea of business, if you're thinking about how flexible your fucking schedule's going to be and like the car you're going to be able to afford, and I don't know, you like do this when you're 30 and you have a house, like wrong. Just stop there. You're in for a world of hurt. The ownership of a business is about suffering. It's about giving stuff up. It's about sacrifice. It's about being there when no one else wants to be. It's the worst of all of it. It's also the best. Like Loki, I love it. I attest to it. I do it for a reason, but I'm very aware of the fact that it's not this
Sexy thing that you think it is.
But there are sexy business jobs. They exist. And like, why people don't gravitate toward more of that? You know, and generally speaking, the people who come up to me and they do have this idea about the lifestyle that they will lead, I'm like, wrong. I just want to let you know right now. But if someone comes up to me and is like, look, I have this thing, and like, you can do this, and if you do that, then I'm like, go into it. You are ready to sacrifice, because that is so exciting to you that like, that's actually what you're left with. At the end of the day,
and you'll keep going when all these obstacles come up.
Yes,
and when you only make $280 a day.
Yeah.
And when you're crumbling on the phone with Deborah.
Precisely. You got to worry about pretzels at that point. And if you love pretzels enough, and that's what I'm left with. At the end of the day, like, I'm not left with a flexible schedule or, Lamborghinis or whatever it is. And like, all those things are nice and fun, and like, they do add to the experience, I'm sure of it. We need some perks. But at the end of the day, I am left with pink shipping container stores and pretzels. So that's what I have to be in love with.
What about growing your business? Do you have any tips on that?
Oh, my greatest tip is like the naivety of youth. Like, I pretty much got as far as I did because I did not question it.
Like, do you reckon you'd do it again? Like, would you go through Melbourne?
At this age? Fuck no. And I'm only 30. You know what I mean? Like, I start young. But what I mean, I suppose, is like, at some point, blind faith.
Yeah.
Like, you'll feel it. Like, you'll know it's right. And like, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes because I think sometimes that blind faith may have like, bleh. But for every mistake that the blind faith has given me, it has given me such a greater like reward. But if you're sitting there questioning and worrying and thinking, and like, worrying is suffering twice, just like, let's worry if we've got to when it happens. Because if you're going to worry anyway, let's just do it then, right? Like, not twice.
So true.
But it's like, just really have to go for it at some extent.
And I guess you never really know. There's no guarantees in business. You don't know if something's going to work. You don't know if you're going to open a store and COVID's going to pop around.
Exactly. And I mean, like, if at least you're going in with this blind, unshakable, unwavering faith, you'll get through all of that.
You'll work it out.
But if you're shaky to begin with, it's like,
you
just commit, get in the water.
And lastly, branding.
Branding?
You just seem to have mastered it. It's just like, it's so good.
It's my favorite.
I almost wore pink today, but I thought it would be too much. I was like, don't do that.
Everyone expects me to wear pink everywhere.
I know. I was like, imagine if she doesn't wear pink and you wear pink. So I wore purple.
I try to I'm like, I will get it in. And there will be pink. Don't worry. But sometimes I also come in like fully pink. And I'm like, nah, this is it.
Yeah.
But it depends on like what I'm doing that day. But generally speaking, pink was not like a thing in my life. Like I like pink because it's like a fuck you color.
I love it.
It's like,
yeah.
fuck you. It's just so in your face. Like that's why I enjoy pink. But I swear it's a boy pink. It's a blue-based pink.
It's really cute, yeah.
Yeah,
I think boys would look good in that.
Cool pink.
It's a
yeah,
cool pink.
as in physically cool based, not warm tone based. But for the branding thing, I think that like, you know, my best piece of advice there is like psychology. Like read a book about it. It's all so driven. Like when you can get in the mind of like, we have this saying in branding. It's like know the color of their eyes. Like, you have to be so specific about what you are creating that you should know the color of the eyes of the person you are selling it to. Like, this is how well you have to, like, work with this imaginary person. Pretzel has one. Unfortunately, it's just, like, a very cooler extension of, like, what I am. So, like, we became very, like, me and that brand are very closely related. But, like, my other brands, like Chubby Boy and stuff like that, like, I know Chubby. I know Chubby the little ghost. I know how he speaks. He does have slippers. Like, he's got no shoes, but he has slippers, and they just, like, sort of dangle underneath him, and they, like, float. He likes, you know, he loves all kinds of cookies and things like that. He's definitely, like, a cookie sandwich kind of guy. You asked me a question about Chubby, I know him.
It's yeah, my brother told me to do that, and I think it's a step that so many people would just skip over because it seems like one of those pointless exercises that people make you do. But it's like
It's the point. It's the
point.
whole
Yeah,
point.
because my brother's like, do a consumer persona, and I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely funner when you say it in my, like, more psychotic kind of way, where I'm, like, imagining things.
But do you do like a full-on write-up of this?
No way. No.
It's just in your head.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you get to feel it a bit better
Yeah.
like that way. But if I have someone come on with me or whatever, like, you ask like Harry, one of my designers, like one time I like locked him in my house, like when we were working from home at COVID, and I was like, so she's like wearing pink, and I was like she's a croc girl currently.
Yeah.
Like Pretzel's moved to the croc situation,
okay, yeah.
but she definitely like she's a Van over a Converse. You know what I mean? She doesn't mind Converse. She'd probably wear the white ones though. if she
I've
was
got
going-
those ones on.
Yeah,
Okay,
like, she
cool.
would wear
I was like
those.
trying to hide my feet.
But she's definitely not like, wearing a pair of Jordans or anything. Like, I consider everything. And this poor guy, he was like, but by the end of it,
He was on board.
and
Got it.
it's because you, like, have to get in that space. So, like, what do they like? What will they do? And, like, that dictates everything. we
It
do.
makes all your decisions so much easier as well.
Where we even locate these
Yeah.
things. Like,
Different range of things that you're selling.
everything.
Yeah, price points.
And it also helps you to move. So, like, a lot of time brands will struggle with stagnation, which is like, okay, this was relevant at that time and it was trendy then. And trendy cafes, companies, products, whatever, very, very hard to progress. They're usually a burn business. You make the money quick, you fire it up, and you just, like, put it in the bin, move on. But those can last and become really, really, really cool brands if they have this person, because people change.
Yeah.
So that you can slowly make adjustments in the way that you're, like, reacting to that person and what you do with your business based on their new set of beliefs or thoughts or whatever, and you slowly follow. So you actually never really lose.
That's so cool.
You kind of like progress with, but it's really difficult if you just created this superficial thing with no, like,
no heart, soul.
to figure out how that brand moves in the next year or the year after that, or how they feel about things, because it's just like a
Yeah.
piece of paper. So
I love that.
that's my best advice.
That was great. I'm curious as to, because you've achieved so much at such a young age as well, congratulations.
Thanks.
What is success to you? Like what?
It's very lame, but I mention suffering a lot, right? But the successful part of all of this, and the thing that I think success is, like, every morning when I wake up, I do that to me. Me. I'm the person who makes me suffer.
Yeah.
So I think that truly successful people are people who are where they put themselves, good or bad. Because I think that success is always this, like, positive thing. And of course it's, like, yeah, a very positive thing, but I do not think it can be counted in dollars. I don't think it can be measured necessarily, and I don't think it's always good. Success sometimes means awful times. Success sometimes means great times. But if every morning you wake up and you're aware that you were the cause of this, something very calming and, like, freeing about that, and that is success. Like, no one asked me to get up. No one's dragging me out kicking and screaming. I'm dragging me kicking out and screaming. So at least if I'm going to suffer, if I'm going to have a good time, either way, it's because of me. I did that for me. So That's what I think that is.
You have honestly blown my mind. This has been so much fun.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Where can people connect with you or the brand? Pretzel?
Instagram. We had our Instagram stolen, so if you want to show us some
What
love.
does that even mean?
Yeah, so somewhere we had a professional hack. They basically took the Instagram and they got rid of it.
Oh my god, we will get
Yeah,
back on
so
there.
you could just follow me on Pretzel. I'm also on there from time to time. Sometimes you get a weird message back, a little reply. That's sometimes me.
Oh
The
my
weirder, the more likely it is that it's me.
No, well, it has been so fun. Obviously, eat pretzels as well. And lastly, I always say life is a jungle. Have you got any parting advice or wisdom for navigating the jungle of life?
The worrying is suffering twice.
I love
Just-
that.
Just have a shit time when you're having a shit time. You don't need to do it
Don't
twice.
pre-plan it.
No, yeah, you do not need to pre-worry for the worry.
I'm going to take that with me because I think I've been pre-planning my worrying.
And,
Totally.
chances are you may get to it and then nothing bad happens. So now you've worried needlessly. It's not even pre-worry. Now it's like you added worry for no good reason. So just if it's gonna happen,
If it's sucky, like,
just deal with it then.
deal with it at the time. But
Yeah.
thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks so much.
That was amazing. I'm so inspired.
Life is a jungle.
Thank you so much for listening. You can find me on socials at Amberly Lobo, and for more information on the show, including all the show notes, visit amberlylobo.com. I'll see you next time, and remember, life is a jungle. Always pack snacks.